Hi, and welcome back to this video tutorial on modeling a male head. Now that we have the basic eye modeled, we can go ahead and start in on the nose. So first things first, let's just go into edit mode by hitting tab. Okay, now if we zoom in here and look at what we've got so far, you can see we've got three main vertices for which to work from the nose. This one, this, and this. Now obviously we're going to be doing a lot of cutting to make this more feasible and to give us more to work with. But this is what we're going to be starting from. So I first want to grab just these front two vertices, the center one and this one here. And then we're just going to extrude them down and around the nose. Not too many times, just a couple. So we'll just do this fairly quick. If you remember from the previous videos, you can just use E to extrude, and we want to do only edges. You can move it down, about halfway. Let's go ahead and scale it in. Oh, you can see I've got my proportional editing tool still on from when we were editing the eye. So first let's hit right click or escape to cancel the scale, and then hit O on your keyboard to turn off the proportional editing. Now we can scale it down, and you see it scales normally. Okay, the reason I scaled that down is just because before it was too wide, such that if I continue following this edge down here, it would actually go over the nostril hole. So instead, I just go ahead and scale it down now and say work later. Let's go ahead and extrude again. Maybe move it in a little more. Maybe rotate slightly like so, just to align the normals a little better. Extrude once more. And actually, once more. Okay, so that pretty much gives us the tip of the nose. Now, I actually want to extrude one more time down here, and then we're going to then bring the new edge out along here and connect it here, such that we're basically forming the area around the nostril, because I essentially want this to be a single continuous loop. So it would make sense that I would basically form a circle of vertices right in here. So if I just extrude, move that down, and then let's grab this edge here, and we'll just extrude it out about the edge of the nose, move it back, and then let's go ahead and add in a loop cut right here, which you can do by hitting Control R, get the purple line, cut it, and right about there should do it. Actually, I'm going to add one more because I said I don't actually want to connect it here, simply because I know that later on I'm going to be adding another cut here and cuts in the lips, and I'm going to want these vertices to connect. And so I don't want to connect this here, otherwise I'm just going to have to do more moving around later. Now, I realize that if this was your first head, that wouldn't, there's no way you would have known that, but I've modeled quite a few, so that's one of the advantages to really modeling heads over and over and over again, is you just start to get a feeling of what you should do and what you need to do to save work later down the road. So I'm going to add in one more cut there, like so. Okay, now I'm actually going to move these out just slightly. And then we can go ahead and select these four vertices by holding down Shift and right-clicking, and then hit F to create a face. Okay, so you can see what we've done. Like I said, we've got that circle of vertices, or an edge loop of sorts, that we're going to kind of form the nose around. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this next step, but this is just the way that I prefer to do it. I want to go ahead and select these two vertices, and I'm just going to extrude them out and around the edge of the nostril. So you can just hit E, extrude, rotate to fit the shape better, pull it back, extrude again, maybe scale up slightly, pull over, rotate, one more time, and then actually one last time, scale it in, and bring it back. So you can see that starts to form the edge of the nostrils. And you can really start seeing this come together here. We just need to stick with it. So I want to go ahead and this loop here, minus these, is going to form the actual nostril. So I want to go ahead and connect these here. Although actually, I really don't want this extra edge in here, so I'm actually just going to merge these two vertices instead. So I can select the two of them, hit W, merge, merge at center. There we are. So now I can select just this edge loop, and I'm now going to extrude and scale in, and immediately start forming the nostril. Here we are. Just do this a couple times. Maybe once more. Okay, now you can see that it's a little oddly shaped here on the inside, so we'll do a little more shaping here. Again, remember, just like the eye, we're not going for super detail right now, as we really want to be sure we get the majority of the structure of the face down before we really go into the fine details. I will dedicate a single full-length video just to adding the little details, adding in extra edge loops here, extra loops there, just to get that final look. So that's not our focus right now. Right now, we really just want the structure down. Okay, that should do that. So now we can go on, and let's go ahead and connect this area. So a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and add in another loop right here. Well, let me think about this for a second. Yeah, okay, well, let's just try this. Let's try... Actually, no. We're going to just extrude these 3 vertices, like so, scale them up, and then we're going to merge these 2 here, such that this can now form a single face. Here we are. Now, I'll show you a bit more of what I've done here in a second, but first let's go ahead and add in 2 more loop cuts here. So I can hit Control-R, get the purple line, and then just use my scroll wheel and move up 1 to get 2 cuts, like so. And then we'll just move it out slightly. And then I'm going to merge these 2 vertices and these 2 vertices. Again, you just shift right click on both of them, hit W, merge at center. Okay, so now you can see that this is almost done. Excuse me. But now, we need to go ahead and fill in this face, these faces here. However, we have a slight problem as we have 5 vertices, and we can only have 4 vertices per face. So we need to add in 1 more cut here. Well, not necessarily here, but let's just see how this works. So if we just select these 4, and then these 4. Quick shortcut: if you've got a face that it's just 4 and it's ready to be filled, you can just hit Alt Shift right click to select it, as if you were selecting an edge loop, and rather than having to select all 4 at one time, and then just hit F. Okay, and then now if we move these in, we can kind of start to see what we've got. Okay, yeah, I think this is going to work. We'll maybe bring these up a little bit. Maybe bring this up. Alrighty, yeah, this will work well. Now you'll notice that it looks a little funky right now, simply because the detail's not there. You know, we don't have this nice crease here like that you'd see here. But again, that's going to come in that final section once we start adding in the final loops. Again, the reason that I'm not adding in those extra loops right now is simply because I want to be sure I get the structure down before I just make a mess of everything and make it that much harder to work with. So this next part is pretty easy. What we're going to do is simply extrude a couple of these vertices up along the brow, or excuse me, the bridge of the nose, and then we're going to connect them with the eye, and we'll fill it in all the way up to here and fill in these couple here. So with these 2 selected, I'm just going to extrude, extrude, rotate, extrude and rotate, and extrude 1 last time. Okay, so you can start to see what exactly what's going to happen. If I just select these 4, fill, these 4, fill. Now, obviously, you know, I don't want this full-length face here because I've got to connect these ones, but what this has allowed me to do is rather than have to go in, extrude these, extrude again, and then fill them, etc., I can just fill these and then add a loop cut. So again, a nice little time-saving device right there. As you get more and more comfortable with modeling, you'll pick up a lot of little things like that that really do help save a lot of time later down the road, and really do start to add up. All right. This is working well for us. So now we want to go ahead and start connecting these. I'm going to add in 1 more loop here because I know that this is going to be too big. Because another thing with structure to keep in mind, aside from just good edge loops, is that you want most of your faces to be roughly the same size and roughly square when you're finished. So rather than have this long face here, I really just wanted to add another one such that I could make them more even. Okay, well, I'll just extrude this one. This portion of it is really just kind of about finding what works and how to make it work. So, you know, a lot of that just comes with practice, and a lot of it just comes with, oh, excuse me. Oh yeah, just most of it just comes with practice. Okay, so you can see I've got a slight problem here. And this isn't flowing very well. So I'm actually going to step back a second. And we're going to do, well, let's see, what do we want to do? Well, first let's add in one more loop here, because I know I'm going to need it. And then we'll just add that. And then we'll connect these. Sometimes when edge loops aren't working, or something in your mesh just isn't working for you, it's good to undo everything and start in on it from the other direction. You can see there, rather than working from the nose down along the cheek, I started down on the cheek and started going up to the eye. And I think this is going to work a lot better. Okay. All right, we're going to try something real quick. Okay, let me step back. Again, sometimes it's just a little trial and error to figure out what's going on, and I realize now what I need to do, and it's something that I have too much here to make this work well. So what I'm actually going to do is a nice little trick. So I'm going to select this vertice, this one, and use the V key, or basically the split key. And what it allows, or actually it's called ripping. And what it allows me to do is just rip edges away. So I can just take those down, pull them out, and then connect these like so. It's kind of an edge loop technique, kind of like adding in new cuts, but allows you to basically pull cuts away rather than cut them in. And it really is a very, very helpful tool when trying to get a good edge flow. Okay, so now, having done that, I can just select this loop, hit X, delete edge loop. Oh, seems yep, I have an extra vertex selected. Now X, delete edge loop, and then just fill that in like so. And there we go. Now I have a very nice, clean edge flow around the nose and the eye. Okay, so let's just do one last thing and fill in this little section. So I'll just select these two vertices, extrude, bring them out along the brow, shape them about right, and fill in my holes. And there we have it. That brings us to the conclusion of the nose. Next, we'll move on to the mouth, and then probably onto the ear and the rest of the head. So again, I hope things are coming along nicely for you so far. You know, just keep playing with it. Step back on the video, watch a single part again. If you have any questions about this through the entire any portion of the video, you can feel free to comment on the blog at CG Cookie on the individual tutorial sections, or you can also email me at jonathan@montagestudio.org. So with that, we'll conclude this section and follow up with the mouth. Thanks for watching. Hi, and welcome back. We're now ready to get started on the mouth. First things first, as always, let's go right into edit mode by hitting tab, and then we'll zoom right in on this loop here that we've already started up. Okay, the mouth is actually going to be fairly simple, although a little tricky to get right later down the road, but for now it'll be nice and easy. All we're going to do basically is extrude this edge here a couple of times back, this edge, extrude, extrude, and then we'll connect the two with this vertice. And then we'll go back in and add in a couple of loops to start getting the shape down. So first off, we'll just select these two vertices, extrude, maybe rotate just slightly, bring it in a little bit, and extrude once more. About like that. Nice and simple. Now we'll do the same thing with the bottom. Extrude. Maybe flatten this out and scale along the z-axis, make that nice and simple. And then we'll go back once more and maybe flatten along the y-axis. Okay. Now we can go ahead and extrude our corner vertice. We'll do the same thing. We'll just extrude it back twice. Let's actually move all three of these over some. So again, I'm just right-clicking to select, shift right-click to select multiples, E to extrude, move it back, left-click. Okay, now I can go in and just connect these faces, just like this. You know, just like we've been doing this whole time. Okay, there we go. So already, just like that, we now have the basis for our entire ellipse. Now, obviously there's one major problem for sure, is that this is completely flat in comparison to how the ellipse should be with its nice voluptuous curve. So first things first, let's go ahead and add in another loop right here in the center. Now, one nice little trick that a user actually pointed out to me the other day that I was not aware of is that rather than left-clicking and then having to position your cut as you wish, if you just hit Control R and then middle click, it'll automatically place the new cut directly in the center of those two previous loops. So nice little time saver there. Okay, now we can go in and start positioning our new vertices. So we'll just move these up, move these up, move these in. Okay, now you'll notice one thing, when I zoom in here really close, it's hard to stay focused on the vertice. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull down this top header by going up into this divider bar until my cursor turns into a double-sided arrow, and then just left-click and drag. And this pulls down the user settings for Blender, which can actually be accessed by just hitting this menu and going to the user preferences, but it's also just by default hidden behind that header. And what I want to do is under View Rotation in the View and Controls is turn on a round selection. And what this does now is when I have something selected, my view automatically rotates around that, making it much easier to stay focused when you're zoomed in close. Alright, immediately it's much easier to stay in control. Alrighty, so there we are. That pretty much gives the curve of the ellipse. And again, you'll notice that I'm having to compensate between the two views, but that's all right. Okay, now I'm going to add in one more loop this way, and then I'll add in several this way. So first, let's add one right here. And what this does is allows me to get this bulge here. Let me pull that one up a bit more. And then I can also start to sharpen up the ridge on the top lip. While it's not too essential yet, since we're still just working on the basis, one of the things that really helps pull out the characteristics of the lip is to give the top lip this nice defined ridge, and a lot of times even a bit of an overhang, as you can kind of see here. It's one of those small details that most people don't really notice at first glance, but that really does help pull a model in. One of the things when working on lips that you really want to be conscious of is what ethnicity are the people that you're modeling. Different ethnicities have very particularly different lips. The whole body is different in some ways, but the lips in particular are very noticeable. So that's something to be aware of. So if you start just building up that visual reference of knowing, what's the difference between a Caucasian man's lips and an African American man's lips, start building up that visual reference such that you don't necessarily have to have a image sitting next to you when you work. If you're told to go out and model a African American man for, some client, having that visual reference stored within your head allows you
to do that with very little reference. That's not to say that you shouldn't use references. References are always a good idea, but it'll also save you time because you're not constantly having to refer back, say, oh, how is this supposed to look? How does this look? So building up that visual library within your head is very, very important early on, and always important at all times. So just something to keep in mind, and just study the people that you're working with. So with that little rant aside, let's continue on. So like I said, I was just going to add in just that one more loop there, and now I'm actually going to go in and add loops here and here. So first, let's add in a loop here, and then we'll kind of rotate around, see what we need to do. Pull it out just a little bit, since the top lip tends to have a kind of a flat section in front and then kind of sweeps back. I'll do the same thing here. Maybe rotate it just slightly, and let's select this loop, rotate it along the z-axis a little, and then pull it back along the y to smooth it out. And then we'll kind of smooth these a little. Alrighty, that's looking pretty good. Now the last two loops that I want to add are right here, so I can get this little bit of a ridge here and one down here, and we'll just pull that back to further emphasize this slight overhang. There we are. That's pretty much the lips right there. Obviously, there's still a good bit more detailing to do and whatnot, but as we're just working on the basis still, that'll pretty much cover it. So real quick, before coming to a close, I want to go ahead and connect this with the rest of the face. So we can see a few edges that we can go ahead and connect without making any changes to the surrounding mesh. We can see we can connect these. We can connect these. We can do this one down here. And that's pretty much it. So now, first things first, let's start in the corner. I need to add a loop right here. Maybe pull this out a little bit, pull it back, and then I can fill in these faces. I need to add a loop down here. I can pull that out, down slightly, pull this up, and fill in these. There we are. Now you'll notice things like this where I don't have enough vertices to start to fill in the necessary detail there, and that's all right because I'm going to get to it later. Right now, that's not my concern at all. In the final section, like I've mentioned before, we're going to go in and make those final connections, add in those final loops, and get the final feeling to the mesh. Right now, that's not our concern. Okay, now we can see that I'm going to have a problem here in that I have 5 vertices for one face. Obviously this can't work. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but it really just comes down to figuring out which way is going to work best for the situation. Now, having done this a few times, what I first want to do is see where my current loops are going and how to continue those. So I have a loop here, and I have a loop here, here, and here. But then I also have the majority of a loop here, but that just needs to be connected. So let's go ahead and fill in this face so we continue those loops. So now the problem is not how do we get rid of 5 vertices, but how do we get rid of a single triangle? And you can notice that we have this loop coming down, we have a loop coming across here, we have our loops here. So if we just merge these two, or get rid of this edge here, that solves all of our problems. So we can just select it, hit X, edge loop, select these 3, hit F to create a face, select the remaining vertice to form a quad, and hit F to merge those 2 triangles. And there we are. We've completely solved that problem there. And now, if I need to add more vertices later on, I can just add a loop cut there, I can add a loop cut here, etc. Whatever I need to do without ever messing up my edge flow. So last thing I'm going to do is just move these back slightly, just get a little more of the shape that we know we're going for. And there we are. That finishes off the mouth right there. Oh, actually, I'm going to select one of these vertices, hit O, turn on my proportional edit, and just move these back just slightly. There we are. I like that a little bit better. Okay, be sure to save your file, and that finishes off the basis for the mouth. Next, we're going to go on to the ear, which I assume is, like most people, If you've never modeled it before, it's going to be one of your worst nightmares. It's going to be long, it's going to be tedious, and it's going to be tough. But due to all the folds, the creases, all the different edge loops, it's going to take a little working to get it right. I've modeled a lot of ears myself, and frankly, I still spend a while tweaking it, figuring out how do I make this a little better, how do I get the edge loops flowing better here. But we'll work through it together, and hopefully come out with you guys not feeling a little more comfortable on how to go about it, and maybe tackling an ear next time rather than simply reusing an old one. It's definitely one of those things that you just have to model again and again before you really get it. So we'll work through it, and best of luck, and we'll see you shortly.